It said they went swimming and were swept away by strong currents. For more on this and other events on our continent, I'm joined on the line by spokesperson for the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, Ndivhuwo Mabaya. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Let's start with that siege in Kenya. Do we know if there were any South African victims or anyone involved there?
Good evening. There is a gentleman who died from that attack. He's got a dual citizenship, British and South African. He had entered Kenya with a British passport, but he resides here in South Africa. We are in touch with his family and relatives, and we will release more information as the day goes on.
Let's go to Mozambique now. What's the latest with those 4 missing South Africans there?
We continue to engage with the Navy and the other people who are involved in the search and rescue. We were expecting a briefing today. I'm sure that the briefing will take place and you will hear more details from them.
So what assistance do you offer families in a situation like this?
We offer consular services as government. We'll be able to link them up with, let's say, for example, you are stranded and you need to access your family. We'll be able to track your family for you. If you need to access doctors and you have lost your medical cards, we'll be able to assist. So we are a center. We become a center of communication between you and all the services that you need. This happens across the world. South Africa has 125 missions across the world, and all of these missions have consular services. And if any of the South Africans find themselves stranded, they have a person who has passed on, they need emergency documents, they can always call the 24-hour operational center, and we have been able to help in a very short of time.
Let's go to Zimbabwe now. The presidency says it's noted with concern the events there. What, if anything, is DIRCO doing in terms of monitoring and dialogue?
Is that in Zimbabwe?
Yes.
Yes, our High Commissioner in Zimbabwe briefed us this afternoon. As you know, the strike in Zimbabwe started when the price of fuel was raised, and we continue to engage. I know that the treasuries of Harare and Pretoria are talking, the diplomats are talking, and whatever assistance our neighbors need in Mozambique, in Zimbabwe, we'll be able to offer them. As it sits now, the indications are that there are a number of measures that the government of Zimbabwe is implementing, and we hope and believe that those measures will be able to address the concern of their citizens. There is nothing much that we can do, but we remain standing and able to help them with anything that we can help. They are our neighbors.
So one of those measures is cutting off the internet in order to try and allegedly quell protests. What do you think of that measure? Because people are saying that's not a correct thing to do. It's a right for people to be able to communicate, and the internet shouldn't be cut off because there's anti-government protests.
I don't think the internet was cut in order to reduce the price of fuel. I think the root of the protest is not the internet. The root of the protest is the high price of fuel, and that is what people are concerned about.
Perhaps you didn't understand my question, so I'm just going to repeat it for you. There were protests that began, and then after the protests began, the internet was cut off. Econet said it cut off the internet from a request from the Zimbabwean government. Some people are saying it's not fair to cut off the internet and cut off citizens because they are protesting against the government. So I'm asking, what's DIRCO's response to that measure?
I am saying that our understanding is that the protesting, we are dealing with the protest. We are not dealing with the internet. I think the issues that you want us to respond to are domestic issues of Zimbabwe. We don't know what are the bases that led to the law enforcement agencies of Zimbabwe to cut the internet. I'm sure the people of Zimbabwe, the government of Zimbabwe can respond for themselves. But the measures that we are talking about, these are the measures to deal with the root cause of the protest, which is the high price of fuel.
Ndivhuwo Mabaya, my apologies for the pronunciation of his name. Ndivhuwo Mabaya, spokesperson for international relations and cooperation, giving us an update on DIRCO and events around our continent. It's time for your sports with Simon.